Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today we're taking a look at Ravening Hordes, the Forces of Evil army list book from Warhammer the Old World, and of course an homage to classic Ravening Hordes and done in a very similar style to the Middle-earth strategy battle game armies books. If you haven't caught any of my other reviews today, the focus here is to kind of give people a heads up on what basic sizes are going to look like, a general overview of the principles of the armies, what's available model-wise from the old stuff that we used to have access to in the days of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and to just generally give you an idea of what you might be collecting. Now, this is one of the 3 bad guy armies in here that has not got a box release, of course, during this initial launch period. It's just going to be the Tomb Kings, and also does not have a book of or arcane journal to go with it. So you just get the core rules in here. But these standalone lists are all you need. And when you get to the Tomb Kings one or the Bretonnians one, when you see what the arcane journals are, they're not army books. You don't have to have them. There are additional ways to play the armies in this book. So if you're planning on playing Warhammer the Old World and you want the book, the rules for that army, they're going to be in here. It doesn't seem like any army books are planned, and these seem fairly balanced. It seemed like it's the same team that made this. So these tend to stand alone and stand a long time. So let's talk about the Beastmen Brayherds. This is possibly the most currently available and complete miniature line in this release. A lot of what's available for the Warriors of Chaos stuff is the older miniatures. The Orcs and Goblins, obviously, it's almost all older miniatures with the exception of the Mangler Squig, I think, and the Night Goblins, who would just be on new bases. But this is basically just the same Beastmen stuff that you have in AOS in Warhammer the Old World, which is great. It's all available. You can probably, this is going to be one of the armies that's the easiest to make right now, ordering stuff that's available for AOS and just sticking it on new bases. So I feel like this one's going to be relatively popular because just the accessibility of the miniatures without having to wait for what I'm betting is going to be the army pairings every year for the next 4 years when we see like 2 box sets, like the Tomb Kings and Khemri ones. We see their arcane journals. We see the box sets come alongside it. I'm imagining these guys get paired with the Wood Elves. So the Wood Elf stuff, again, relatively available, but they would make sense as the pairing for 2 box sets. So if you don't want to wait for that pairing to come out, then jump in and start building it now. Usual breakdown for percentages, you get to 50% on your characters, up to at least 25 on core, up to 50 on special, 25 on rare, 20 on mercenaries, and 25 on allies. Your armies of infamy, which will be available when and if you get, of course, a arcane journal, which I'm sure every one of these armies is going to count as allies, and then one of the following grand army compositions. So Orc and Goblins can be uneasy allies, which means they count as levies, so no using the leadership or the BSB, the general's leadership or the BSB rerolls. And then Warriors of Chaos, Tomb Kings, and Khemri are suspicious. If you fall back for them, they might attack you. You do have one prerequisite in this army. You must have a Gore Herd, so 1+ Gore Herd. Other than that, you can have 0 to 1 Beast Lord, Great Bray Shaman, or Doombull per 1,000 points. So in a standard 2,000 point game, you're going to have up to 2 of those from that list. Wargors, Bray Shamans, Gorbulls, and Centaur Chieftains are all other characters. Core is Ungor Herds, Gore Herds, Chaos Warhounds, Razor Gore Herds, and Tuskor Chariots. And if your general is a Beast Lord or a Wargore, up to 1 Bestigor Herd can be taken as a core choice. Not that you're likely to have more than one unless you're playing a giant game. And if your general is a Doombull or a Gorbull, 0 to 1 Minotaur Herd can be taken as a core choice. And then special, up to 50% of your army's points can be spent on Bestigor Herds, Harpies, Minotaur Herds, Centaur Herds, Dragon Ogres, Razor Gore Chariots, and Cockatrices. Chaos Ogres from the Warriors of Chaos list. If your general is a Great Bray Shaman or Bray Shaman, 0 to 1 Jabberslaith or Cygor can be taken as a special choice. And if your general is a Doombull or Gorbull, 0 to 1 Gorgon can be taken as a special choice. And then 25% of your army on Shaggoths, Jabberslaiths, Cygors, Gorgons, Chaos Giants, and Chaos Trolls and Chaos Spawn from the Warriors of Chaos list. And of course, 25 points, you can make a Wargore your BSB. So the Beastman Chieftain, that Beast Lord's pretty much Chaos Lord, but with weapon skill 6 and movement of 5. Initiative of 5, not movement of 5. So he's a bit faster. Oh no, that's standard initiative for a Chaos Lord too. 4 attacks, leadership 8, lower leadership than anything else. Different there, 115 points. He is on a 25 by 25 min or 30 by 30 max. This is the one army where weirdly you get to choose. I don't get it. I don't get why they didn't just make it 30 by 30. Now, when we get to the characters, or the Gore Herds and stuff like that, Ungors are on 25 by 25, and Bestigors are on 30 by 30, and Gores are on 25 by 25. So I guess it's just like convenience for what unit type you want to put them in. So if you want to put your Wargors in 25 by 25 and then stick them in with your Gors, and you want your Lord to be in with your Bestigor herd, then go for it. One of the biggest changes in here are the fact that you don't need to have a whatchamacallit, the sort of like skirmishers turning into unit stuff that was in the old Beastmen Brayherds armies. They're pretty much just covered now by the way the unit types work, and we'll talk about that more as we go forward. So your Beastmen Chieftains, they can have the usual loadouts of weapons and stuff, additional hand weapons and great weapons, light armor and heavy armor, shields. You can take Chaos Mutations up to a total of 50 points. And 0-1 per 1,000 points can have the Ambusher special roll for 10 points, or be mounted on a Tuskor Chariot, Razorgore Chariot for the appropriate point cost. Beast Lord can have 100 points of magic items, Wargore can have 50, and they have Blood Rage, which is the army special rule. Well, Frenzied, this model has +2 to its attacks characteristic instead of +1. However, such as its desperate need to feed on the flesh that it rolls a single d6 when making a pursuit roll rather than 2d6. So you don't pursue as far, but you get bonus attacks for being frenzied. You have Primal Fury, Warband, which means that you gain bonus to your leadership for your rank bonus, and you get Gaze of the Gods and Mark of Chaos Undivided. So the marks and the Gaze of the Gods stuff is going to be pretty much the same. It's pulled from the Chaos Warrior army list. So if you haven't seen Gaze of the Gods, you can choose to go on Gaze of the Gods in the start of turn phase and roll a d6. On a 1, you lose a leadership for the rest of the game and become stupid. On a 2 or 3, you get a temporary bonus. One is +1 to your initiative, the other one's +1 to your toughness. On a 4+, you get something permanent. So on a 4, you get +1 weapon skill. On a 5, you get +1 attack. And on a 6, you get Apotheosis, +1 strength and leadership, which is pretty neat. And then, of course, you also get the access to buying the mutations, but we'll come to that later on when we talk about mutations. Or you can just go watch the Chaos Warrior section. Your Brayhorn is a piece of equipment that you get when your general is one of these two types. From the beginning of round 2 onwards, if your general is on the battlefield during the command sub-phase of the turn, you may attempt to sound the Brayhorn by making a leadership test. If it's passed, you may immediately roll again for each unit of ambushers in the army that's held in reserve and did not arrive during the start of turn sub-phase. So ambushers is a core rule, right, where you can arrive around the table. And normally it would be like you can't do anything the turn that you arrive, and you have to roll to see if they show up. The Brayherd allows you to summon them more reliably by getting that sweet reroll. And then Beastmen Shamans, they get a Bray Staff, which is when the model's combat is chosen to fight in the choose and fight combat subphase, it may choose to use its Bray Staff offensively or defensively. If you use it defensively, you get a 5+ armor save. If you use it offensively, it counts as a great weapon. Pretty good fighting stats for a wizard, toughness 5, right? Weapon skill 5 for the Great Bray Shaman, and 2 attacks. Again, you could choose your base size, 25 or 30. You're level 3 if you're a big boy, and level 1 if not. You can take Demonology, Dark Magic, or Elementalism. So no battle magic for these guys like you can with the Chaos Warrior army list, but you get Elementalism instead, which is again why I think you're going to pair these with the Wood Elves if they do eventually get an army box. Again, you can buy Chaos Mutations, and up to 1 per 1,000 points can have the Ambusher special rule, which means they can go with an Ambusher unit. Or they can be mounted in a Chariot or Tuskor Chariot, Razorgore Chariot. You can upgrade to level 4 and have 100 points of magic items, or level 2 and have 50 points. And they get Gaze of the Gods, Lura Beast, Mark of Chaos Undivided, Primal Fury, and the Warband rules. They add to the leadership the rank bonus. And then Minotaur champions, you get Gorbulls and Doombulls, as per normal. The Doombull is the fightiest of your heroes. Strength 6, toughness 5 is no joke with weapon skill 6. 50 by 50 though, for your basing size. So big bases. You can take additional hand weapons and great weapons, light armor and heavy armor, take a shield if you want, and get super duper fighty. You can take mutations. A Doombull can purchase magic items up to 100 points, and a Gorgon can take 50. You get Armbane 1, so -1 AP to all your attacks, in addition to normal. Blood Greed, Berserk Rage, Bulgors, Fear, Foe Render, Gaze of the Gods, Impact Hits, Mark of Chaos Undivided, Primal Fury, Slaughter's Call, and Warband. Now, of course, the Blood Rage being the same, when you're frenzied, you get +1 to your attacks, but you only pursue d6. Blood Greed is, sorry, that's the Blood Greed. Blood Rage is, if testing to see if it becomes subject to Primal Fury, if this unit passes the leadership test, with any roll of a natural double, it also becomes frenzied. Bulgors is impact hits caused by this model have an armor piercing characteristic of -1. And the Primal Fury rule is once this unit fights in combat, when this unit's combat is chosen in substep 1.1 of any choose and fight to combat subphase, you can make a leadership test. If it's passed, you become subject to Primal Fury. A unit with Primal Fury may reroll to hit and natural rolls, any to hit rolls of 1. So you're not frenzied automatically. You become frenzied if you roll a double and you're a Blood Rage model, like a Minotaur. And then you also have Bulgors, like I said, their impact hits gain a, because they have impact hits 1, they have an additional -1 to their AP. And Slaughter's Call is not in here. Slaughter's Call. Oh, it's here. While they're frenzied, any unit they join will also become frenzied. Your Centaur champion is on a 30 by 60, so big base. They have cavalry, spears, and great weapons as options, light armor and heavy armor. They can take throwing axes and javelins. They can take a shield, and 0 to 1 per 1,000 points can also be an ambusher. Can buy up to 50 points of mutations and magic items. They have the Drunken special rule, which all the Centaurs have, which is... during the start of turn subphase of each of your turns, roll on the Drunken table to see if they're not currently frenzied and they're not engaged in combat. On a 1, they're unsteady. The units become somewhat unsteady until your next start of turn subphase. The unit is subject to the random movement special rule, and its movement is d6 plus 2. Sobering up has no discernible effect on them. And 6, belligerently drunk, they become frenzied. A unit with this special rule may become frenzied in this way, even if it lost its frenzy earlier in the game. And you have to roll once you're frenzied again. They have the Primal Fury, Stomp Attacks 1, Swift Stride, Warband, which means they add leadership to the, or rank to the leadership again. Mark Chaos Undivided, and move through cover. Now notice nobody here gets to increase their mark, unless I believe they are, you can't buy different marks. No, you can't buy different marks at all, you're just undivided. Which means you're re-rolling your psychology tests. And then we're into Bestigor Herds, so they have, again, interesting that you can't buy marks for them. Nope, no buying marks for them. Just Mark Chaos Undivided. So no Wargore, not Wargore, what's the word? Bloodgores? No. Pestigores, Zangors, Slangors, and I want to say Wargores. I thought it was Wargores. Wherever the corn ones are. These guys are heavy infantry, which means that they can fight in their redressed ranks. They can ignore, they need at least use their strength 10 to disrupt them, basically because they're heavy infantry. And 30 by 30 millimeter bases means they're a bit bigger than Gore Herds. Full command options, they can take a magic standard up to 50 points. The Gouge Horn can take mutations and magic items, which is cool. And they can have stubborn and veterans. They get Blood Rage, Close Order, Mark of Chaos Undivided, Primal Fury, and Warband. Then your Gores, weapon skill 4, strength 3, and toughness 4, so they're kind of like unruly orcs. Can take additional hand weapons or shields. They must take one of the following, actually, either or. And then full command, the True Horn can get a great weapon if they want, and magic weapons up to, or magic items up to 25 points. And then 0 to 1 unit per 1,000 points can be an ambusher, and purchase a magic standard up to 50 points. They get Bestial Charge, Blood Rage, Horde, Mark of Chaos Undivided, move through cover, Primal Fury, Skirmishers, and Warband, so they're automatically Skirmishers. During a game in which they made a charge move of 3 inches or more, a model with this special rule gains a +1 modifier to its strength characteristic. So interesting that they are Skirmishers. They make them very like maneuverable, but they don't get that like bonus to ranks basically that they used to get from the old days where they would skirmish and then form up and get ranks anyway. Ungors. They are, again, on 25 by 25s, 10 plus for the unit size minimum. Hand weapons and shields. They get thrusting and throwing spears, or they can take short bows. You get your full command, and they can be ambushers up to 1 unit per 1,000 points. So far you can have 1, 2 units of ambushers, because Bestigors do not ambush. So 1 unit of Gores and 1 unit of Ungors can be an ambusher per 1,000 points. So 2 units, it'd be 4 units total in a 2,000 point game. Harpies are on 25 by 25. Man, those models are old. Fly 10, move through cover, skirmishers, scouts, and swift stride. Minotaurs, 50 by 50s. Still great, strength 5, initiative 3, so not slow like ogres. And on 50 by 50s with a minimum unit size of 2 plus instead of 3, and a minimum, because they're monsters infantry, it's a minimum of 3 for a rank. So you'd want to have at least 5 if you wanted to put a character in it. And then any model can take an additional hand weapon or a great weapon for 3 or 4 points. You can take a shield, so you can have shield gores again. And they have light armor, so you get a 5+ save out of that. And then you can have your commands. You can have mutations and magic items on the blood kind. And they've got all the same stuff as the characters, so Blood Greed, Blood Rage, Bull Gores, Close Order, Fear, Foe Render, Impact Hits 1, Mark of Chaos Undivided, Motley Crew, and Primal Fury. Because Motley Crew means that they can mix their weapons and armor, and they're like a unit of characters fighting, basically. So I think it's kind of cool that they can be kind of non-standardized. Then we've got our Centaur Herd, which is on 30 by 60s as well, so big cav bases, cav spears and throwing spears, or have replace their shields with great weapons as an upgrade. And the entire unit can take throwing axes or javelins. And then upgrade 1 model to a Gorhoof, a Standard Bearer, or a Musician, so full command options. And then they can also ambush, 1 unit per 1,000 points. Any unit, 0 to 1 unit in your army, period, not per 1,000 points, can ambush. And then 1 per 1,000 points can take a magic stand up to 50 points. And they got Drunken, Fast Cav, Horde, Mark Cast Undivided, Move Through Cover, Open Order, Primal Fury, Skirmishers, Stomp Attacks 1, Swift Stride, and Warband. And then your Dragon Ogres on 50 by 75s, 1 to 9, so you can have a single Dragon Ogre as a unit, which is kind of neat, in small game sizes. The entire unit may take one of the following, so they don't get the motley weapons that the Minotaurs have, which is kind of sad. And it's either additional hand weapons, great weapons, or halberds. The entire unit can replace their light armor with heavy armor. They can take a champion, and the champion can take chaos mutations or magic items with 25 points. And they get Armorbane, Armored Hide 2, so their light armor goes to a 4+ save. Close Order, Fear, and Sorcered Weapons, Immune to Psychology, Stomp Attacks 2, and the Quickening Storm. So if they were able to take shields, they aren't, but they can take heavy armor, they can have a 3+ armor save. And the Quickening Storm is... That's mutations. Quickening Storm. A model with a special rolls a 5+ ward save against any wound that is caused by magic missiles or magical vortex spells. In addition, if a model with a special rule or the unit it belongs to suffers 1 or more hits from a storm call, it becomes quickened. They get +1 initiative and attacks, and it lasts until your next assertive subturn phase. Warhounds are on 25 by 50, 5+ unit size. They can have Armored Hides for a 6+ save, Poison Attacks, or Vanguard. They have Loner, Move Through Cover, Open Order, and Swift Stride. And then Razor Gore Herds, so they're War Beasts on 50 by 75s. They're the big ones, the big Pumbas. They got Tusks that count as a hand weapon, and Calloused Hide that counts as light armor. They have Armorbade, Fear, Foe Render, Impact Hits D3, Loner, Open Order, Primal Fury, Razor Tusks, and Swift Stride. And then Tusk Gore Chariots and Razor Gore Chariots. The big difference is, of course, the Razor Gore itself. The Razor Gore has Armorbane 1, and they're mostly the same apart from that, and it causes Fear, too, with first charge. The basic Tusk Gore Chariots impact is D3, D6 + 1 as opposed to D6 + 2. Then we've got the Dragon Ogre Shagoth on a 50 by 75. So it's a big monster. It's a strength 6 × 5, so it's pretty beefy. On a 50 by 75, just like his friends. He is able to take an additional hand weapon or a great weapon. It's funny they didn't give him the option of the 50 by 50, so you can use the own miniature. You can have light or heavy armor for 6 points. Can take mutations to 50 points and magic items to 50 points, even though he's not a character. And then he's got Armorbade 2, Armored Hide 2, Close Order, Ensorcelled Weapons, Immune to Psychology, Large Targets, Stomp Attacks D3 + 1, Storm Call, Terror, and Quickening Storm. So this model has a bound spell with a power level of 1. It can cast it even when it's engaged in combat. It's a magic missile, casts on 7+, and ranges self. If this bound spell is cast, all units within 6 inches of this model suffer D3 + 4 hits with an AP of -1, because he calls the lightning on himself, and basically they get quickened because they like the lightning. Jabberslife on a 60 by 100, so it's a big base. Slightly weaker than the Shagoth, like 5s across the board almost, initiative 3. He's got heavy armor, the scaly skin. He's Close Order, Fly 9, Large Target, Maddening Aura, Poison Attacks, Spurting Bile Blood, Stomp Attacks D3, Swift Stride, and Terror. The Maddening Aura is during the command sub-phase of this turn. Any enemy unit within 8 of this model, including units that are fleeing or that are engaged in combat, can take a leadership test, and if it's failed, the unit takes D3 + strength 3 hits with no armor saves or regeneration, but you can take ward. And then Spurting Bowblood. For each wound it loses, the attacking unit takes a strength 4 hit with an AP of -1. And it can move and shoot quick shot, so it can march and still shoot this thing. 12-inch range, strength 5 -1 for its slithy tongue. The Cockatrice on a 50 by 50. Interestingly, how much smaller the base is for that, for the Cockatrice. It's got again, a much weaker stat line too. Can have acid vomit or poison attacks. Close order, fly 10, large target, stomp attacks 1, stony stare, swift stride, and terror. But the Petrifying Gaze has an 18-inch range at the start of each combat phase. Enemy models in base contact with it must make an initiative test. If it's failed, they take D3 strength 2 hits with no armor saves permitted. And the Gaze as a gun is range 18, strength 2, magical attacks, multiple wounds D3. When making a roll to wound for an attack with this weapon, substitute their toughness with its initiative. No armor save is permitted against wound caused by this, but you can do ward and regeneration. And then Acid Vomit's a breath weapon at strength 3 -1 save. And then finally the Cygors, they are the giant minotaurs, 60 by 100-inch millimeter base. They get claws, hurl attacks, and light armor. They get close order, ghost sight, immune to psychology, large target, soul eater, stomp attacks D3, stubborn, terror, and timber. So stubborn, they can substitute a pushback for falling back in good order. During the combat phase, the Cyger can reroll any failed to hit made against enemy wizards, enemy models or units equipped with magic items, or enemy models or units with a ward or regeneration save. And there is Soul Eater. Any enemy wizard that wishes to cast a spell within 12 or one or more Cygors must first make a leadership test. If it's failed, the wizard has lost their nerve, and should they fail to cast the spell has been miscast, and the enemy active player must immediately roll in the miscast table for the unfortunate wizard. If the test is passed, the wizard can continue with their casting attempt as normal. And then the hurl attack, 12 to 36-inch range, basically a storm thrower. It says bombardment. Cumbersome, multiple wounds, D3 +1 for the hole, and it's 4 for the blast, 8 for the hole, -1 or -3. If a misfire is rolled, however, this model takes a single wound instead of rolling in the misfire type because he drops the rock. You can buy a Chaos Giant. Again, Chaos Giants are like regular giants, but they can have scaly skin and regeneration. They lose Yell and Ball. There's no more Yell and Ball on giants. Yeah, same with the Orc and Goblin one. But they get Headbutt, Belly Flop, Mighty Swing, Thump with Club, and Jump up and down still. And then finally the Gorgon. This is the other big Minotaur looking thing. It's a behemoth on a 60 by 100. It's got cleaver limbs, Blood Greed, Close Order, Frenzy, Large Target, Primal Fury, Regeneration 6+, Stomp Attacks D3, Stubborn, Swallow Hole, Terror, and Timber. Swallow Hole is during the command subphase of a turn, a Gorgon that's engaged in combat with one or more units of regular or heavy infantry can choose to make a Swallow Hole attack. Nominate an enemy unit or regular or heavy infantry unit that they're engaged with. You must immediately make an initiative test. If it's failed, the Gorgon grabs a victim from the unit and stuffs them into its gullet. A single model is just destroyed and removed from place of casualty. If it's passed, the warrior manages to avoid it, and no one is picked up, and it has no effect. And the Cleaver Limbs all have Killing Blow and Monster Slayer, which is bananas. And they're strength with -2 AP. So that's 5 Killing Blow attacks. So the mutation list for these guys: Slug Skins, 50 points. Any enemy model that directs its attacks against it are -1 to hit. And any unit it's joined too, 50 points. It's great. Crown of Horns for 45. You get Stubborn, and the unit you join gets Stubborn. Muscular Monstrosity, +1 strength. Pelt of Midnight, in the shooting phase, -1 to hit. And any enemy unit that you join. Gouge Tusks, during the combat phase, the AP of your weapons is increased by 1. Rune of the Beast Ascendant for 25 points for your chieftains only. Unless this character is fleeing, friendly Beastigor, Gore, and Ungor herds gain a +1 mod to their leadership characteristic while within this character's command range to a maximum of 10. And Many-Limbed Fiend for 20 points. This model, but not its mount, get +1 to their attacks. However, they are made using an ordinary hand weapon. And then Gnarled Hide. Models whose troop type is infantry only. They get Armored Hide +1 special rules to get +1 to your save. And then Uncanny Senses for 10 points is +1 initiative. All right, your cool magic items, such as the Primeval Club for 60 points. It's a -3 AP Hatred Empire magic poisoned attacks. And the strength characteristic of this Primeval Club is equal to the current leadership characteristic of the model that wields it. So if you are leadership 8 and you are in a unit to a maximum of 10, you add your rank bonus. It could be strength 10 Hates Empire magic poison attacks. No one thing is 60 points. The Axe of Men for 50 points. Killing Blow magical attacks. Should the wielder kill any enemy character, including champions, they gain terror for the remainder of the game because they take your head off. The Mangelder, Mangelder, combat, strength +1, -1 AP, magical attacks, and terror. You cause terror. Any enemy unit that suffers one or more unsaved wounds from it suffers a -1 to its leadership characteristic until the end of the turn. And the Hunter's Spear. It's a 24-inch range, cumbersome magic attacks, through and through, multiple wounds too. It's basically a bolt thrower. You get the Pelt of the Dark Young. It can be worn with other armor. You improve your armor value by 1 and get magic resistance -2. And the Blackened Plate. It's a suit of full plate armor. In addition, you get a 3+ ward save against wounds caused by any attack that has the flaming attack special rule. So fighting against Tzeentch, you're going to be real happy. And then Talismans, 30 points, you get a Rune of the True Beast. Enemy models whose troop type is monster suffer -1 to their weapon skill, or within 6 of a bearer of the Rune of the True Beast. The Dark Heart's 25 points, single use. During the command subphase of the turn, the bearer of the Dark Heart can consume it and recover a lost wound. Magic Standards, you get the Totem of Rust. Every model, friend or foe, within 6 of the model carrying this Totem of Rust suffers -1 to its armor save rolls. So every model, friend or foe. So you want to take somebody who's not armored at all and then give them that. The Manbane Standard, all enemy units within 6 of the model carrying the Manbane Standard suffer -1 of their leadership characteristic to a minimum of 2. And then Vitriolic Standard, you get Poison and Banner of Outrage. You can reroll your leadership test when attempting to test for Primal Fury. The Stone of Spite, single use during the command subphase of their turn. If they're not engaged in combat, this character can use the Stone of Spite until your next start of turn subphase. All wizards, friend or foe, suffer a -2 to their casting rolls. And Horn of the True First Beast, 30 points. You can, unless the bearer of the Horn of the First Beast is fleeing, any friendly units within 18 of the model may use its leadership characteristic for testing for Primal Fury. So getting that reroll. And the Skin of Man for 15 points. Beastmen, Chieftains, and Beastmen Shamans whose troop type is infantry only. The bearer of the Skin of Man gains the Scouts and Vanguard special rule. You can have a Plague Chalice for 40 points. If the bearer of the Plague Chalice rolls any natural doubles when making a casting roll, the spell is cast at perfect invocation, regardless of any other casting modifiers. However, each time it does this, it takes a strength 4 hit with no armor saves. But you can make ward regeneration. The Hag Tree Fetish. Whenever the bearer is casts a magic missile, they can reroll failed rolls to wound. And the Jagged Dagger. Can only be used by a wizard that has joined a unit. Before making a casting roll, you can make a sacrifice. You remove from play a single model. It's a casualty. The bearer may modify the casting roll by the wound characteristic of the sacrificed model as a result. And then your Lura Beast. So these are the spells that you can trade as a signature spell, basically. So when you roll on one of the tables, either Dark, Elemental, or Demonology, you can roll and then drop one of the spells for the signature spell. You can use these signatures instead. Vile Tides of Magic Missile, 8+, range 15. The target enemy unit suffers 5d6 strength 1 hits with no armor saves, but you can make ward regeneration. That's crazy, even if you're wounded on 6s. Devolve, it's a magic missile, cast on 8, range 15. The target enemy unit must immediately make a leadership test, and if it fails, it loses a number of wounds equal to the amount it failed the test by. The Mantle of Gorok, it's an enchantment for an 8+ on self. Until the end of the turn, the caster gains d6 modifier to their strength and attack characteristic to a maximum of 10. However, if a 6 is rolled, they take a single wound. And that's it. But you also have access to these other lores, which are right here. This book is so heavy. You also have access to Demonology. So you can do the summoning. It's a 9+ magic missile with a range of 18, 2d6 strength 4 hits with an AP of -1. Steed of Shadows. Wait, let me just double check. Now I'm paranoid that you can't actually take this one. It's battle magic you couldn't take, and you get Elementalism. I'm 99% sure. It was... I'm having a moment where I'm doubting my own memory from a minute ago. It's right here. Beastmen, Brayherds, Beastmen, Shamans. Demonology, Dark Magic, and Elementalism. Yeah, I was right. Oh, jeez. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. Yeah, Lura Shadows, Conveyance, 9+, range 15. This spell can only target friendly models whose type is infantry. If the target friendly model is not fleeing and has not moved yet, it can move again and gains fly 12 until you start your next start turn phase. So basically, if you haven't moved yet, you become fly 12. And your infantry. Gathering Darkness is a hex. It's a casting on 9+, range 12. Until your next start of turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers a -2 modifier to its initiative characteristic to a minimum of 1, a -2 modifier to its leadership characteristic, and cannot use the General's Inspiring Presence spell or skill. And it can target enemy units in combat. Demonic Familiars, I like this one. It's an assailment cast on 8+, so you have to do it in combat. A single enemy unit the casters engage with takes 2d6 strength 2 hits with no armor save, but you can make Warden regenerations. And then Demonic Vessel, 10+ enchantment. The range is self. Until the end of this turn, the caster, their mount, and any unit they've joined get +1 to their strength and attack characteristic, and their AP goes up by 1. Vortex of Chaos. Magical Vortex, it's an 8+ cast with a range of 15. Remains in play, it's a 3-inch blast, and with the center of the hole within 15. It's dangerous terrain, and it moves d6 in a random direction in the start turn subphase. Any unit, friend or foe that it touches takes d6 +1 strength 3 AP dash hits. And then finally, Demonic Vigor. Until the end of the turn, target friendly unit gains +1 to its movement, toughness, and initiative characteristic on a 9+. Woo. Dark Magic. Your signature spell is Doom Bolt. It's a small 3-inch blast with a 24-inch range and a casting value of 8 magic missile. Anyone whose base is underneath it takes a d6 strength. Takes a strength 3 hit with an AP of -2, but you have to roll like a stone thrower. Word of Pain is your first spell. It's on a 10+, range 18. Until the start of the next turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers a -1 modifier to its strength and toughness characteristic to a minimum of 1, and the spell can target enemy units that are engaged in combat. Stream of Corruption, cast on an 8+ in assailments. It's used in melee. Place a flame template so that the narrow end touches the caster's base and the broad end is over a foe it's engaged with. Anyone whose base lies underneath risks being hit with a strength 3 AP -1 hit. And then Infernal Gateway, it's a conveyance spell on a 10+. Can target friendly characters, but they can be engaged in combat. You can pick them up and put them anywhere within 12 of the original location, but not within 6 of enemy models. Phantasmagoria, it's a magical vortex. You place it within 12 of the caster. Anyone within 12 of it must make a panic test. Those who fail fall back in good order or flee directly away from the template. Those who pass or that do not have to make the test become subject to the impetuous special roll while within 12, so you can only act normally on a 4+. Battle Lust, you get Hateman and Frenzy until the end of this turn. And then Soul Eater, it's an assailment cast on a 7+, range is combat. A single enemy model that's engaged with in combat suffers a strength 3 hit with multiple wounds 3, and no armor save permitted, but you make Warden regeneration because you suck their soul out. Elementalism. So this is, again, like the Wood Elves and Beastmen get this. You've got Stormcall as your signature spell. It's a hex on a 7+ with a range of 12. And so at the start of the next turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers a -1 to its movement and initiative. If this spell is cast, the effect of any other hex previously cast on the target immediately expires. You get the Flaming Sword, not of Rune though. It's an assailment with 8+ in combat. A single enemy unit the caster engage with will suffer d6 +1 strength 3 hits with an AP of dash and flaming. Plague of Rust. It's a 9+ hex with a range of 21. Until the next start of turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers -2 to its armor value, and this spell may target enemy unit that's engaged in combat. Then we've got Summon Elemental Spirit, which is kind of like a line of sight blocking smoke cloud that also does damage. It's a magical vortex, cast on 9, 15-inch range. Small 3-inch blast within 15, and then it'll scatter each following start of turn phase. Anything it touches takes D3 plus 3 strength 4 hits with an AP of -1. Earth and Ramparts, this is probably the best defensive spell in the Elementalism lore. It's until your start of turn subphase, the next one. Target friendly unit gets a 5+ ward save from any wounds it's suffered, and counts as being a defended obstacle if it's charged. However, it cannot march or charge, so this is a really cool for turtley units to get. And then Wind Blast, I like this one too. Magic Missile, 8+, casts on 15, or range 15. The unit takes D3 plus 3 strength 5 hits, and then is forced to give ground, and they're AP 1. Then Travel Mystical Pathways, a conveyance, cast on a 10+ with a range of 9. If the target friendly unit is not fleeing and has not already moved during this movement phase, you can immediately remove it from the battlefield and replace it anywhere within 12 of its original location, but not within 6 of the enemy. The target friendly unit cannot move again during this movement phase, but you could just put somebody behind someone. It's a pretty cool conveyance spell. And that is it. So again, I'm particularly excited about this army because, as I said earlier, with this particular one, you're going to be able to make most of it right now with the models available from AOS. So because so many of the miniature lines for Age of Sigmar basically aren't cross-compatible, like the Orcs and Goblins, the Night Goblins are, but the basic Orcs kind of aren't. The Brayherds, they are pretty much completely just pulled from the AOS range, which means you can get them right now. If you get your hands on separate bases, the entire collection that's available from the workshop store, or basically anywhere at the moment, including all the monsters, can be used in this army list. So I think it's going to be pretty popular to start off with, because even the Warriors of Chaos, most of their model range probably won't fit at this point. Like the Demon Prince kind of still will, like the new one will, but the Chosen are a bit too big, I think, probably for 30 by 30s to rank up properly. And even the new Chaos Warriors, they're very dynamic, which is what I love about them, but they probably won't rank up the way the old ones do. So without a bunch of kit bashing. That being said, this one is pretty much just take it from where it is right now, throw it on like some 25s, which are probably pretty easy to acquire, but the 30 by 30 and 30 by 60 bases are out there too. You can find them. I got mine from White Dragon Miniatures for my Orcs and Goblins and my Empire stuff I'll be working on in the future. So anyway, there it is. The final upcoming one is the Tomb Kings. That's part 4 of this dive into Ravening Hordes as we check out their Arcane Journal and their list. Big thanks for watching. Go open the cards and check out the army you're interested for the old world today. Till then, I'm Ash. Gaming.